Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot, and I'm delighted to bring you detailed horoscopes for all 12 signs today. I am going to get into those individual horoscopes for sun and rising signs. Timestamps will be below, but first I'm going to give you a general overview of the astrological energy that we're experiencing this week and what to expect from the energies at hand. This week we have spring equinox, at least in the northern hemisphere. What we're experiencing is a shift in daylight hours, and one common thing associated with spring is not just the birds and the bees, but also spring cleaning. And cleaning house is actually a metaphor I use a lot because it's a metaphor for cleaning out our headspace. It's a metaphor for really kind of doing that dirty work sometimes in our lives where we take a humble assessment of where we're at and what we can do about it to possibly clean things up, make our lives more efficient, have ourselves experience less distractions, whatever it takes to really kind of bring ourselves to an efficient and healthy and organized place. Sometimes those occasional check-ins, sometimes occasionally cleaning house, either literally or metaphorically, can be profoundly useful. And that's the best energy that we could possibly approach this week with, because not only is it the spring equinox, which is astrological new year, we enter a new zodiac cycle, but we're also 1 week away from eclipses. So cleaning house, literally and metaphorically, is going to be really, really, really important, because when we experience eclipses, every 6 months, we'll have 2 eclipses together. And those 2 eclipses are going to be 2 weeks apart. That 2-week period can be a period of incredibly condensed learning experiences, growth opportunities, and massive shifts that have been building for quite some time. Often during eclipse season, what we'll see happen in our lives, or even collectively, is a sense that there's been build up, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 all these different things change. We can utilize that energy of breakthroughs and transformation if we are ready for those transformation and breakthroughs to happen. But if we kind of put off the house cleaning in our lives, sometimes what happens is those 2 weeks of eclipses will just throw all kinds of issues in our faces to the point where we cannot avoid it or run away from it anymore. It kind of forces change, it forces evolution. And what makes life a lot easier is if we are willing to take those steps and take that action ourselves instead of being dragged through the process, which very likely can happen. So this week, as we experience an energetic build-up towards the eclipses, what you are very likely to notice inside of yourself and around yourself is a sense of increasing tension. And sometimes that tension starts to come through on a subconscious level where we'll be like, ooh, I feel a little bit irritable or uncomfortable, and maybe we will kind of take some autopilot steps like self-isolating, like cleaning house, having these little nervous habits, whatever it is we do to release low-level tension. Those are going to be the first ways which you notice the eclipse building up in the energy of the collective. You may notice yourself kind of like wanting to tidy or wanting to change things, right? And as we get closer and closer to the eclipses, it'll also very likely shift from what feels like a subconscious discomfort to a much more clear awareness of exactly what it is that's bothering us, what needs to change, and hopefully an awareness of what we can do about it. Sometimes that's actually the hardest part, is like, okay, I noticed this thing that's bothering me, but I have no idea how to get there. And so as much as we can narrow down our focus to the core issues that are coming up for us, it's easier to find the steps that'll get us to resolution. The place where we sometimes get distracted is adding too many details, analysis paralysis. If we're trying to resolve something with a person, for example, relationships can be crazy tricky. And as we're trying to express a core need, sometimes what happens is we'll add stories and context and past experiences. And as much as all of that's relevant, sometimes it's almost too much information. So the best thing I can suggest is try and narrow things down to really simple explanations. If you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself dealing with that subconscious discomfort and you're not really sure where it's coming from, see what you can do to kind of pull that out of yourself by addressing or acknowledging or noticing core needs. So today is Sunday, March 17th. What we have today is that 1 week mark before the full moon where we're going to have an eclipse. And also today we have Sun conjunct Neptune. When the sun meets up with Neptune, it is considered to be a little bit of a cazimi. Cazimi is when any planet gets into the fire of the sun. When we see them in the same spot in the sky, it appears that the sun is swallowing up that planet with fire. Now, some planets have the strength in their energy to kind of stand strong even when they are in cazimi. And when I said a little bit of a cazimi, what I meant by that is that Neptune doesn't really have that strength. Neptune will, in its energetic form, kind of disappear into the sun's energy. And in this particular situation, it's actually awesome because Neptune is associated with our dream space, our connection to spirit. It's also associated with the zodiac sign Pisces and a tendency to be either in the fog, like not really clear about what's going on, or even if we are clear, wanting to avoid it and swim away. So Neptune brings this dreamy fog, but the sun brings like the strongest flashlight you've ever seen. Have you ever seen those commercials or like videos when people are like, check out this flashlight, and they shine it in a city and it actually lights up like miles down the road? That's the energy of the sun connecting with Neptune. It's like clear away your avoidance, clear away your deception or illusion or tendency to disassociate. It shines a light on anything that wasn't necessarily clear. And so what I said in my morning horoscope today was sometimes when we have been avoiding or not necessarily ready for the truth, a day like today with the sun conjunct Neptune can make it feel like the truth all of a sudden hits us like a ton of bricks. We might have those realizations where all of a sudden the rose-colored glasses are taken off in regards to how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive, maybe it's another person in our lives, maybe it's how we perceive our role in society or how our career's going. There's a huge chance, if you have not been very honest with yourself, there's a huge chance that today's energy might actually be hard, because it's an energy of stripping away any illusions that might have prevented actual clarity in your life. Now, if the opposite is true, if you have been approaching your life with humble awareness, if there isn't anything that you're hiding from or running from, then today's energy of the sun conjunct Neptune could actually increase your psychic abilities. It could become a really creative, dreamy, inspired day in the healthiest way possible. You could find it easier to tap into some things that maybe were hard before. Easier to tap into what your ideals are in the situation. Now, Neptune is not necessarily just about dreaminess and fog and intuition, which it is, but the other part of it, Neptune is an energy of wanting to live our best lives. And not necessarily like with a yacht and with credit cards. That's not what I mean at all. To live our best lives is to be happy with who we are, happy with what we're doing, and feeling like we have aligned our choices with our ideals. That means living morally in a way that we feel really good about, making healthy choices so we feel like we're treating our body like a temple, or respecting the inner sacred space of our heart and our mind. Living our ideals is about really just walking our highest path. And the sun in astrology represents how we come to know ourselves or how we identify as an individual in this world. So to have the sun conjunct Neptune, the core energy here is, are you living your best life? Are you making the healthiest choices you can? Are you following your dreams? Are you loving yourself? Are you trusting yourself? Are you trusting your gut? So the energy of almost being questioned. Are you living your best life in the sense that you are walking your highest path? That may be an affirmation for you today. It might be a heck yeah, and I'm going to keep doing it. Or it could be, oh my God, I'm not. And that realization could be that ton of bricks feeling. Does that make sense? So when we start off the week with that kind of energy of like, wait a minute, am I living my best life? Am I making healthy choices? Am I aligned with my ideals? That sets the tone for the whole week. And then next weekend we have an eclipse ushering in massive transformation if anything really needs to shift, or also helping us get that boost if we're ready for a shift and we need that next level action happening. So this week, the sun moves into Aries. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. That's why it's the astrological new year. And so there's a sense of fresh energy and fresh starts. If you've been hesitating, if you've been dragging your feet, if you've been really kind of like avoiding taking action on stuff, for the next month with the sun moving through Aries, this is going to be go time. This is going to be the time where you finally have that energetic boost. You finally have that motivation or inspiration. Or maybe what happens is you go, F it. Fear of change is way less than fear of things staying the same at this point. You might even just blindly throw yourself into change because you're just so done with how things are. So however it comes through for you, this is a week of newness, and this is a week of increasing energy, but also increasing tension. So the best thing you can do is be really, really, really aware of what it is that's causing tension, because there might be a tendency to be like, oh, it's that person's fault, or it's the moon's fault. You know what I mean? The movement of the planets and the moon only set the stage for how we experience our lives, but we can't blame everything on external forces. This is going to be a week of recognizing what internally am I doing or saying or thinking that is keeping me potentially in a negative loop. So taking responsibility is going to be huge. Towards the end of the week, the sun forms a sextile with Pluto, which is an energy of cleaning house. And it's an energy of using our power or our status or our privilege or our voice or our energy. It's using whatever we have that we can bring to the table to repair what is broken, or to make amends, or to make healthy choices, or literally clean house, or reorganize something that's not necessarily the way that we want it. So this week, our attention is going to be brought to anything that is unhealthy, toxic, not aligned with our highest good. And then as we kind of close out the week, we're given an option. We're always given options. Free will is a thing. Make those changes, dive in, do that dirty work, or you can get back on the merry-go-round and go around another time and just go la la la, it's fine. And the reason I say that is because on Friday, Mars moves into Pisces. When Mars, the planet of action and ego, moves into Pisces, ruled by Neptune and the fishies swimming opposite directions, there is going to be a tendency of that choice point, or it's going to be an energy of a choice point. Either we align with the Piscean and Neptunian, I'm going to make those healthy choices no matter how hard they are, or Mars, representing our action and ego, is going to dive deep into the whole like, it's fine, with avoidance, checking out, illusion, deception. And more often than not, the worst lies we ever tell are the ones that we tell ourselves. So just kind of think about that. Are you telling yourself any lies, or are you avoiding some sort of maybe uncomfortable truth that's keeping you stuck in a loop? Because making healthy choices is not always easy, but it's about dealing with a wee bit of discomfort right here, right now, to make the long road path easier. And when we try and take the easy road here and now, usually the long road path gets harder. So that's what we're faced with this week. So I'm going to dive into the individual horoscopes for all 12 signs. These are written for rising signs and sun signs. If you know both, watch both for extra insight. What we've got is we're going to be looking at the sun moving into Aries, what part of your chart that's going to activate for you. The sun is going to form a sextile with Pluto, and that's that cleaning house energy, what it is that you might need to kind of sort out in order to be ready for eclipse season. And Venus conjunct Saturn, establishing new patterns and a new way of being that is going to be aligned with our highest good, because those are in Pisces. And then Mars moving into Pisces, what that energy of action and ego is going to mean for you. Guys, ready? Excuse me. I'm going to get a little sip of water before I get started. Okay. Spring equinox. It's your birthday, Aries. Aries, sun and rising. Happy birthday, you guys. Babies of the zodiac, but warriors. You guys are warriors at your core. And with the sun moving into Aries for the next month, not only is it your birthday, but it's also an opportunity to recharge yourself. It is definitely going to be a time for Aries, sun and rising, where you are more focused on yourself than anyone else in the world, but it is healthy and appropriate when used in the right context. Making sure that you kind of reestablish any of those healthy habits that involve making sure that your cup is full before trying to pour yourself out to other people or the rest of the world. It's going to be a healthy level of selfish, and it's going to be an awesome opportunity also for you to advocate for your rights, to speak up for yourself, to make any of those hard choices or have any of those hard conversations where you say, hey, my needs are important, or hey, my emotions are valid, right? So if you've been feeling shy, if you've been feeling reluctant to speak up for yourself, the next month is going to be go time when it comes to self-advocation and self-preservation as well. Now, if you need to make a good impression on other people, this is a great time to make a presentation or to have that conversation with your boss where you ask for a raise. Anything having to do with self-promotion, wanting to be seen in the best possible light, this is also the best possible time for it. The only potential drawback is you might not be very sensitive to the needs of others. So do kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You don't want to bulldoze your way through life, but at the same time, every now and then you got to look out for number one. But yeah, just don't run anybody over in the process. Now this week, the house cleaning energy happening for you with the sun sextile Pluto is going to be in your 11th house. Now, at the same time as you're going to be super, super compelled to advocate for your individuality and really want to put your original twist on things, the power is going to lie in aligning your ideals and aligning your desires with the desires and ideals of the group. You're basically forced, in the context of the astrological energy right now, the best possible way for you to accomplish your goals is in a group dynamic. And if you try and use the group dynamic or the energy to bring it back to you and have your goals be met but not other people's, I can guarantee you it's not going to work out this week. So just want to give you that heads up that the power of the collective, align what you think with what the group thinks. Put your individual need for power or control on the back burner for now, because the potential is just not there. And if you try and do something selfish or egotistical this week, is going to totally backfire on you. So aligning yourself and your intentions with the group is where it's going to work out. It's going to work out in your benefit. It might take a little bit of humbling yourself to get on that level, but in the end, you're going to see how it was the best possible decision, and it's actually going to be the exit door that you were looking for. Any obstacles, any challenges you've been working through right now, the answer right now is going to be with the group. With Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces this week, there is a sense of maturity settling in. And it's perfect because it's right before your birthday, or it might be on your birthday. There's a sense of kind of sitting back and going, I'm less reactive than I used to be. I'm much more wise. I'm much more calm than I used to be. Recognizing things that you're really, really proud of yourself in when it comes to maturity, creativity, wisdom. My ravens are here today. And what you're going to be able to do is be really proud of how that maturity and wisdom is coming through in your actions, your choices, and your behavior lately. Now, with Mars moving into Pisces, you are going to be faced with, over the next month or so, moments of being like, ouch, or cringeworthy moments where you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Or after something, you'll be like, you know what, I really should have listened to the group, or I really should have just kind of like taken a step back in that moment. You are going to have moments this week that feel cringeworthy or kind of show you where your weak spots are, where any areas of your life or areas of your self-expression might still be a little bit childish or egotistical or self-serving. Those things are going to be brought to your attention, and it's just really important to remember, hey, I'm a human, it happens, right? Don't be too hard on yourself. Be like, oh, that's a growth point, or that's a learning moment, right? And take it as a learning moment and a growth point, and integrate it, and it'll be much easier, and it'll smooth everything out. If you avoid those realizations, you're going to prolong the suffering or prolong the challenges. And I hope that makes sense. So happy birthday, Aries, Sun and Rising. Oh, that's what I was going to say. With Mars moving through your 12th house, there is going to be a little bit of an internal battle in yourself where you are somewhat blind to your actions or somewhat blind to the effect that you have on other people. And it's going to be in the context of either being self-serving or not necessarily sensitive to the needs of others. And then you're going to have moments of either realizing, oh, that's something that maybe the people that raised me, that's something that they would have said or something they would have done. And you're going to be like, ooh, is that something that I want to do? You might be proud of it. You might be embarrassed of it. But it's important to recognize when and where you are potentially sabotaging yourself, and how being more mature or more wise or more careful would prevent those issues in moving forwards. So don't worry about it though. You are maturity and wisdom in action, and you're going to see it in yourself, and you're going to be proud of yourself. So keep on keeping on, and happy birthday. Taurus, Sun and Rising. The spring equinox, the Sun moving into Aries is moving into your 12th house. And the energy for you guys right now is going to be kind of working through conscious and unconscious signals that you send other people. And there's going to be realizations of like, maybe you think something inside of your head and you literally don't say anything out loud, but the people around you respond either energetically or verbally. And you're going to be like, can people hear me think? And what it is it's going to be realizations that are pointing you in the direction of realizing how it's not just about the words that come out of your mouth. It's about the energy you bring to a situation. You can say the nicest words on the planet, but if you have an energy of being like, inside of you, that's what people are going to pick up on. And so it's going to move from what last week might have felt like an energy of confusion of like, why are people acting like that? To this week being an energy of being like, okay, yeah, I did only think that in my head, but they very well could have picked up on my energy. So it's going to be really important to be very humble and very aware of these conscious and unconscious signals that you send people in your life. And it could be also reflections of behavior patterns that you have experienced or displayed since childhood. And it could be like really amazing content for a session with your therapist. I mean, honestly, if you want to like start picking these things apart, whoa, there's a lot of information here. But basically, behavior patterns since childhood, any roles that you typically played, any assumptions that you came to have for the people around you. Maybe those assumptions are people being dumber than you, or maybe those assumptions are nobody gets me, nobody understands, nobody cares. Just be really, really mindful of any of those kind of messages and things that you tell yourself inside of your head. It could be something along the lines of, if I don't do this, nobody will. If you were someone to always take responsibility in childhood when you should have been a kid, but you had to do a lot of grown-up, adult, or responsible things, then those sorts of messages, those sorts of roles in your life would carry through to adulthood. And that's what's being brought to your attention this week, in whatever form is relevant for you. Now, those repeating roles, sometimes we're just really, really good at stuff, and sometimes we thoroughly enjoy those roles that we take. Maybe we were the mom of the group or the dad of the group, or you know what I mean? But sometimes we have realizations where we're like, actually, I don't like that role. Actually, I'm kind of resentful that if I don't do something, nobody will. Whatever those realizations are for you, it's going to be about projecting wisdom, but not in a way where it's superiority. It's going to be benevolence. Like, yes, I have these skills and these amazing abilities that I bring to the table, but it's my choice whether or not I give them away, right? I don't have to feel resentful. I could choose not to do it. And then maybe other things will happen. So whatever the realizations are for you, it's going to be about roles that you play in your adult life, and cooperation, whether or not you feel like you have people you can ask for help. Again, it feels like along the lines of feeling like either you do everything by yourself and you're starting to feel resentful, or maybe you feel lost. Maybe you feel like you don't have a purpose and you're looking for that niche where you feel like you're needed or feel like you're wanted. But basically, it's about consciously choosing how you expend your energy. With Mars moving through Pisces, moving through your 11th house, you really do want to express your creativity. You want to express your humanitarian and compassionate side. And the battle for you might be that you have to fulfill so many utilitarian roles. You're like, well, I want to be a free spirit. I want to be artistic. I want to be musical, but I can't because I'm working this dumb job all the time, or whatever it is. So you're going to be having realizations about what it is you do with your time, whether or not you feel valued, whether or not you feel like you're part of something, and whether or not you feel like those choices are conscious or unconscious, and whether or not you're happy with those choices. So you are reestablishing new roles for yourself, and that's been in the works for quite some time. What's happening this week is realizations of what those roles mean, and whether or not you chose those roles or whether or not you were kind of forced into those roles in your life. So that realization and that moment of being like, wait a minute, do I choose this or do I want to change this? But all in all, it's going to be a great opportunity for you to really kind of do that house cleaning work inside of your awareness and inside of your choices for that month before your birthday comes. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Gemini, sun and rising. The sun moving into Aries and the spring equinox is activating your 11th house of cooperation. And maybe you have this sense that life is just sweeter these days. You're really kind of stoked on where you're at. And your interactions are really kind of reflecting this new sense of belonging that you feel. Because of the inherent nature of your sign as a Gemini, represented by the twins, interpersonal dynamics are so incredibly vital for your sense of identity. For you to be able to have people in your life that you can bounce things off of, for you to be able to feel safe with the people in your life is just so incredibly important that when those things are sorted, you can bloom, you can blossom, there's no questioning. So that's really the energy of your zodiac sign right now, is blooming and blossoming from a foundation of feeling like your needs are being met, feeling like you are valued for who you are, and feeling like you're loved and accepted for who you are. Now that those things aren't even up for debate, you're blooming. So that's what's really beautiful. And the sense of belonging, you're really networking right now, increasing healthy interactions, and also starting to think about projects on the go. The team action is really kind of your happy place. And as much as you've been trying to kind of get some individual things on the go, it feels like the most open pathways are in the realm of working in some sort of group dynamic and extending this new sense of self-love that you have to something that you can potentially share with other people. So seeing wisdom in yourself and then seeing yourself as valuable and worthy is a beautiful ego boost that it feels like you kind of needed, but at the same time, it's important to not tip too far in the other direction where you become too egotistical. It's about sharing your sunshine, right? And you really can lighten up a group. You really can get that energy flowing and help people feel included and loved. So the things that are opening up for you, especially with Mars moving through Pisces for the next month-ish, is starting to establish new ways of sharing your light with the world. You may be inspired to act in your community on some sort of benevolent, generous level. Maybe you're helping out in a charity way, or maybe you're just finding greater success in your career. This is a wonderful time for you to present yourself in the best possible light. Lining up job interviews or having a conversation with your boss about a raise or something like that. This is a time right now where people really are going to see you as this bright and shiny energy. And so if there's anything you need to use that for, now would be a great time for about the next month. But lots of go time for you, lots of action and energy and a sense of progress happening. So I'm really stoked that you have such good momentum happening. I hope you have a wonderful week. Keep up the good work. Cancer, Sun and Rising. Excuse me. What is happening for you guys right now, the spring equinox is activating your 10th house. And basically, you know, you've been going through a lot of ups and downs and realizations and intensely emotional experiences. But when the sun moves through your 10th house, what it's really highlighting for you is reputation, honor, and how your dignity is either upheld or decreased in the eyes of the world. And so there's a sense that now that you've really kind of done this massive inventory inside of yourself, that you want to make sure that your external choices and who you are in the eyes of the world, you want to make sure that that reflects the honor and the integrity that is so incredibly important to you on the inside. Now, with great power comes great responsibility, and it's almost like you have a desire to use whatever power you have to help other people who are disadvantaged. Maybe you want to advocate for the underdog. Maybe you want to simply share your heart in a way that helps other people feel like they're not alone. You have such an incredibly beautiful, beautiful heart. And this period of this week, especially before the eclipse, with the sun forming a helpful sextile to Pluto, is helping you kind of get out of what's been a really, like, Pluto moving through your 8th house is, holy smokes, that's heavy. Like, really, really heavy. The deepest, most intense, and potentially dark thoughts about life, death, rebirth, karma, everything in between. And it could be a time of deep psychological upheaval as well. If you've been going through, you know, trauma work, shadow work, depression, anything like that, my heart goes out to you. Pluto in the 8th is not easy. But the bonus this week, the really, really cool thing this week with the sun sextile Pluto, is those deep thoughts that you've been having, that process that you've been going through, is going to be more of an outer expression rather than a heavy introspection. It's going to be a sense that you're able to take these deep thoughts and really kind of utilize it as a way of empowering yourself, especially when it comes to making sure that your identity reflects your values. So what I mean by that is that you've got no tolerance right now for anything superficial or fake or lip service. The way that people are like, oh, I believe this and this and this, but they clearly don't walk the walk. You know, people who talk the talk, but they're just full of it. That kind of stuff is like, ooh, that's your kryptonite right now. You are just not into it. So you might be kind of experiencing almost like that shift from depression to anger, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do something about this instead of feeling weighed down by it. Now, for you, that might take advocating for political causes, speaking up against genocide, standing up for anyone, whether it's an individual or collective, and really finding that voice to speak your truth and share the truth if that's what you feel compelled to do. Now, the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you empower and heal yourself, that becomes like almost like a boost up, where you're not drowning, and you also are like, hey, I'd like to share this lifeboat that I found in my life. So anything that's helping you get your head above water is also potentially going to help other people get their head above water. With Mars moving through Pisces and Venus conjunct Saturn, not only are you establishing new healthy foundations in your life, but you also might feel inspired to even write your life story. There's something about your journey, like you help people all the time in little different ways, but what's coming through is the potential or the thought or the creative inspiration to think, how can I do this on a bigger level? How can I not just share with a couple of individuals here, but how can I potentially lift up a whole group of people? And it might possibly come through in the form of telling your life story. It could be writing it, it could be journaling it, logging it, videoing it, something about really wanting to share what you have learned, because so many times in life it's like stumble, fall, stumble, fall, stumble, fall. But if we can translate that into a, oh my God, guess what I learned, it takes all of that struggle away for maybe somebody else who can read that, be warned of it, be inspired by it. You never know, you know? And so there's something about wanting to share what you've learned, either through enlightened action or through sharing some sort of personal journey in a way that might help other people. And it's all about your core reflections and your core values. What do you stand for? What do you represent? And how does your role in the public, or how does your presence in your community either reflect that or take away from that? So that's the kind of thing. You are thinking about outer appearances, but in the most humble and honest way possible, and wanting to make sure that you either empower people or lift people up or encourage people on their healing journey somehow, some way. So good luck, you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Leo sun and rising. The spring equinox is going to have the sun moving through Aries. Aries is another fire sign just like you. It's going to be a wonderful time of the year for you, and it usually is. Spring energy is the kind of fire, like pick me up and lift my spirits kind of energy that you absolutely love. And with the sun moving through the 9th house and then forming a sextile to Pluto in your 7th house, it is going to help you kind of get your head above water when it comes to any interpersonal dynamics. Sometimes what happens is maybe we really struggle with a relationship, but then we start to learn about psychology and realize why other people have been behaving the way that they are, realizing why we're behaving the way that we are. And then all of a sudden, those realizations, that information, that knowledge, that wisdom helps us go, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And boom, we're released. No more a prisoner of any of this drama or traumatic connection. So there's a potential for you guys right now, Leo, sun and rising, to not only broaden your horizons, but have some sort of awakening or awareness around why it is that you do what you do. And it's not easy to have these realizations because sometimes ego gets triggered, sometimes pride gets triggered. It is so much easier to be like, well, I did that because I was mad, or I did that because that person deserved it, or whatever, right? But then later we're like, that person did a thing and I didn't like it. Boom. So it's just like when we teach our kids, you know, or it's just like every human on the planet, every religious text ever written, all comes down to the same core thing that we learn in kindergarten. Treat others the way that we want to be treated. And when we're able to focus on the core message, when we're able to be honest with ourselves and kind of take out all the details that make things really, really, really confusing, sometimes that information, sometimes that clarity can really empower us and release us from karmic patterns that we've been stuck in. So, knowledge, acceptance is the key to understanding. You are releasing yourself from karmic patterns, and it's study. It's learning about yourself. It's learning about psychology. It's learning about why you do what you do, and empowering yourself to either choose or not choose participation. It is your choice to get sucked in. It's your choice to engage in these situations. Personal dynamics are some of the most tricky things that we ever have to deal with as human beings. And unfortunately, that's been the highlight for you for a while. And with Pluto moving through your 7th house, it is going to be the highlight for you for a while. There's no getting away from it. Now, what's really interesting is that this week, Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and Mars moves into Pisces. It's all activating your 8th house. 8th house is intense. It's life, death, rebirth, karma, trauma, shadow work. There is no hiding right now. So between confrontations and power plays, you are being given many opportunities over the next month to see the interpersonal dynamics in your life with absolute clarity. And then when you see it, you know, when people show you who they are, listen. Don't try and explain it away. Don't try and give people the benefit of the doubt if they don't deserve it. And it's also really important that you don't have rose-colored glasses on regarding yourself and your choices and how you participated or you initiated whatever dynamic ended up happening. Taking full responsibility and being really clear on what is it that you want out of a situation. You know, if you're seeking to resolve something with someone who is very keenly focused on not resolving it, you're not going to get what you want. And chasing the monkey around the bush, pop goes the weasel, is kind of makes me what it makes me think of. It is your choice to keep chasing the same thing. Maybe you're chasing emotionally unavailable partners, and you're always like, why are they not emotionally available? Because they're not capable. Or maybe you're addicted to drama. Maybe you need to be able to create inner peace for yourself instead of trying to find people that are going to give you that. It's going to be really intense realizations for you guys, but they're going to be life-changing. They're going to be empowering. And if you're willing to be humble, if you're willing to see things clearly and take personal responsibility, literally everything in your life is going to change. So as we build up to the eclipses that are going to be really intense for you guys especially, please pay attention to whatever realizations come through for you this week. Don't run from the truth. Let it empower you. The truth will set you free, but first it might piss you off. So be brave. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Virgo sun and rising. The sun moving into Aries and bringing the spring equinox for us is activating your 8th house. It's really going to be shining a light on the deepest facets of your psychology and your inner workings. And it could possibly involve realizations of whatever habits you have in your life or whatever it is that you do on a daily basis. So the sun moving through your 8th house is going to be all about repeating behaviors, habitual responses, whatever kind of loop you seem to be stuck in. These might be healthy realizations, or it might be the realization that you are as far away from healthy as you possibly could be. Again, these are not necessarily going to be comfortable realizations this week, but they're going to be breakthroughs that can potentially change your life if you're willing to take healthy action. So that's what's happening. Pluto's moving through your 6th house. It's going to be there for a really long time. There is no avoiding the themes of health in your life right now. The 6th house is all about health. It's physical health. It's also mental health. And it's about what you do on a daily basis and potentially even service to others. And so questions about whether or not you are walking your highest path, whether or not you are looking after your own health, whether or not you're playing the martyr and then blaming other people when you don't have time for yourself. It's about taking personal responsibility, being as healthy and aligned with your ideals as possible. And any time shadow stuff is shown to you, approach it with bravery and honesty. It could be realizations of vices. It could be realizations that you are not treating your body like a temple. Maybe it's the realization that you need to take seriously your mental health, to meditate on a daily basis, to start going to therapy. Maybe it's a realization that you need to eat more vegetables, quit smoking, quit drinking, treating your body and your life with sacred reverence is going to be the answer to pretty much everything. And if you are not treating yourself with sacred reverence, that's what's going to be shown to you this week. Now, Venus conjunct Saturn in your 7th house is bringing an energy of helping you really live your best life when it comes to relationships and the people that you have your closest interactions with. And with Mars moving through Pisces, through your 7th house, there's an energy of honor and integrity. And whether or not you are acting with honor and integrity, or maybe the question is whether or not the people in your life, the partners, business partners and romantic partners, the theme is honor and integrity. And sometimes when Mars moves through Pisces, there's a sense of, oh, it's fine, rose-colored glasses, or avoiding tricky conversations. Sometimes we hesitate to really call people out for stuff because we're like, oh God, that's not a conversation that's going to go very well. So every situation is different. Certain partnerships, certain interactions, we can bite the bullet and be like, okay, I really need to talk to this person about this, because we know that even if it's not an easy conversation, we know that the person cares, and we know that in the end it's going to make things better to just get everything out on the table. Or you could have realizations that somebody in your life is not capable of having a conversation, and the choice becomes yours, whether or not you change it, whether or not you walk away, or whether or not you just accept things for how they are. And some of the realizations that Virgos and Sun and Risings are going to be having right now is whether or not you are projecting your values, your choices, your standards on somebody who is either not capable or like totally doesn't align with that, right? Virgo is definitely known for wanting the best, but also having this incredible eye for detail where we're like, ooh, that could be improved. Oh, that could be fixed. With the energy this week of cleaning house, wanting to make improvements, wanting to make repairs or fixes or reparations, the challenge for Virgo Sun and Rising this week is going to be whether or not you are projecting, whether or not it's somebody else's responsibility to make those repairs, those reparations, etc., or taking that responsibility and going, you know what, actually, I have repairs I need to make. I have reparations I need to make. So that's going to be the dynamic, is taking responsibility, real responsibility for what is yours, and then maybe reaching a place of compromise, maybe giving somebody a chance to have that conversation, even if you didn't think they were capable of it. What if they want to try? Not necessarily making assumptions about people, and maybe possibly taking the high road, picking your battles, choosing your battles wisely, and thinking about whether or not your desire to have somebody else fix something, consider whether or not that is a projection or whether or not that's a realistic assignment of responsibility. I hope that makes sense. 7th house issues are tricky. And with Mars moving through Pisces, there is an energy of avoidance. Either you avoiding a partner or a partner avoiding you, or somewhere in that dynamic, both of you guys avoiding something that might be tricky or challenging, or a conversation that should probably be talked about. So again, it's about choosing your battles wisely and also being really, really mindful of what are your repeating habits. What are your habitual responses? And are those leading your relationships in a healthy direction or an unhealthy direction? Good luck. Libra, sun and rising. You guys are going to experience probably a pretty intense week because the full moon in a week is going to be in your sign. So you may experience this build up and build up and build up of tension. And then 1 week from now, when there's an eclipse, it may be an explosion or it may be a release. You want to make sure that whatever breakthrough happens in 1 week's time is one that you are absolutely conscious of and behind the wheel of as much as possible. If you do not reach a level of clarity this week about what the tension is and why it's building, the explosion or breakthrough or release that comes might be something that is out of your hands and it might have unintended results. So be behind the steering wheel as much as you possibly can. The spring equinox is activating your 7th house. The sun is going to be moving through your 7th house. It's going to be shining a light on partnerships, alliances, and the people that you deal with most closely in your life. There are going to be reflections that are going to be helpful and useful to you. And it's going to be creative in a sense that you are able to say, okay, if this approach or this conversation didn't work, how about we try something differently? Because there's other times in your life where you might be like, well, that conversation didn't work. F it. I'm not going to try again. Whereas this week, it's going to be, you know what? I might give that another go. I might see if I can reach understanding, or I might see if we can reach an agreement. You're going to have kind of a new hope within relationships as far as your desire to make repairs or have things move more smoothly or have things be in some more of a healthy dynamic. That's going to be your goal. So whereas in the past you might have given up, you might give it another go, especially if it's something that you've experienced frustration with in the past. Now, what's different though, is that you're not going to be wanting to wait for others. You want to move forwards. That is your MO right now. You're like, I want to move forwards. I want to be healthy. I want to hit my goals. I want to live my best life according to my ideals. You're going to have a moment or a few moments this week where you're going to pause and be like, does anybody else want to come with me? And that's where you're going to be inspired to maybe have a conversation or make amends or reach some sort of understanding or clarity with people. But here's the thing, if you reach out and you're like, does anybody want to come with me? In the sense of, does anybody want to evolve with me? Does anybody want to grow with me? Does anybody want to be healthy with me? If you take that moment and it's crickets, you're going to be like, okay, peace out, bye. Whatever, because you're mission right now is to walk your highest path. So just kind of be aware of that you will be inspired to maybe potentially reach out, bring somebody with you down this highest path, but don't hold yourself back. And if in your attempts to reach resolution or have a conversation or reach closure or healing or anything like that, if your attempts go sideways, don't let that derail your entire mission. Keep on keeping on. Not everybody's going to be capable of meeting you where you're going, right? This is definitely a time with Mars moving through Pisces, moving through your 6th house. Health is going to be highlighted for you. And the connection between maybe karma or maybe spiritual health or maybe a sense that you have to deal with some psychological stuff, that could possibly be brought to the forefront for you. But again, everything about what you're doing and where you're going is about living your ideals. And it would be amazing if people could come with you, but all of the shifts that you've been experiencing personally and professionally are kind of coming to a head right now. And in 1 week's time, the full moon lunar eclipse is going to be a time of release. It's just like when we're on an airplane and they say, put on your mask before helping others. That's where you're at. You're putting on your mask first. This week is going, does anybody else need help putting on their mask? And if nobody else needs help, you're going to be like, cool, done. So this week is closure. This week is potentially getting that final assessment of where things stand between yourself and others. But it's also a moment of giving yourself permission to let go of anyone or anything that isn't coming with you on this journey up ahead. So be brave. Start first, and then look around for helpers. Then look around for, okay, who's on the same page as me? Rather than waiting to begin, rather than waiting for people to come before you take off. You're doing you, right? And the momentum that you've started needs to continue. I hope that makes sense. Love yourself. I hope you have an amazing week. Be brave. Scorpio, sun and rising. The spring equinox is bringing the sun through your 6th house. Now, the past few weeks with the sun moving through your 5th house, it's been playtime, it's been creativity. Maybe you felt romantic. Maybe you felt like you really didn't want to go to work. But with the sun moving through your 6th house, it's going to be a huge shift in energy. It's going to be easier for you to be focused. It's going to be easier for you to delay gratification and be like, okay, I'm not going to do my recreational stuff right now. I'm going to work. I'm going to get my chores done. I'm going to get my schedule sorted. Then I'm going to have that reward or rest or whatever it is. This new stamina that you have and hopefully have is because the last few weeks when you needed to fill your cup with creativity and play and joy, you did it. So if you're feeling like you don't have stamina this week and you don't have that motivation, it's highly likely it's because you have worn yourself out, you've pushed yourself too hard, and you need to catch up on that resting and playing energy that was in the atmosphere in the last couple of weeks. If we listen to our bodies as much as possible within the context of having to do what we have to do, right? But if you're able to listen to your body and create as much time as possible when the mood is right to be able to rest and relax and play, that means that when the time comes that you really need to focus and you really need to be on task, that you'll be ready. You'll feel like you got your sillies out and you'll be like, okay, I'm all right. So yeah, if you feel discombobulated this week, you need to kind of take another look at your obligations versus your health and your stamina, and make sure that, self-control is key, but it's also really important to be gentle with yourself. So that work-life balance is kind of what's in the mix this week. Now, with Mars moving through Pisces, Mars is now moving through your 5th house. So even though there's this energy of like, okay, I got to get a bunch of work done, what you're carrying with you for the next month or so is an energy of, yes, work is important, but so is my mental health. So maybe kind of being regimented for the next month about, okay, I'm going to work for 3 hours and then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to do the hokey pokey. I'm going to have a dance party, whatever it is. And being more regimented about letting yourself play, letting yourself relax and shake it off. So that when you need to, really put the nose to the grinder, you're able to, and you're not feeling resentful because you got your free time, you got your playtime. So sometimes it feels weird to schedule playtime or to schedule meditation or something like that. But if we don't carve out that time in our calendar, sometimes it doesn't happen. So that's kind of the tip I have for you guys this week. You're definitely coming with new energy. Maybe you've refreshed your goals. You're also seeking engagement, seeking connection. If you felt kind of isolated or the desire to isolate lately, that's a big shift that's going to happen for you right now. You're going to be much more motivated to connect with people or be social, stuff like that. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you experience some really playful connections that also feel nourishing. And I hope you find that productivity and use it to your advantage. Have a great week. Sagittarius, sun and rising. The spring equinox, the sun moving through Aries, is another fire sign like yourself. So it's going to be a really awesome energy for you guys in particular. The sun is going to be moving through your 5th house, highlighting the need for play, highlighting the need for silly time and not being too serious. And it's really important that you have enough nourishing connections in your life to balance out any times that you really have to put on your serious hat. To be able to have other moments where you're like, okay, serious hat gone, let's have fun, let's be silly. That's really your happy place. So as you experience for the next month a very playful, a very joyous energy, you're going to be magnetically attracted to other silly or playful people. And it's those playful connections that you're going to find to be the most nourishing. For example, if you need to really brainstorm something for work, you're going to be more drawn to like, okay, let's have a group meeting outside on the grass, as opposed to sitting in some sort of stale office environment behind a computer. Sometimes setting is everything. And so if you are experiencing any challenges or writer's block or creative stagnation, change your environment. Go outside or turn your desk around if you can't go outside, but something to change what you are visually surrounded by can really shift that energy into a healthier or a different, more dynamic flow inside of yourself. So don't hesitate to like maybe rearrange the furniture or something like that. Because Mars moving through your 4th house would indicate activity around the home as well. You might be literally packing and moving, or you might be inspired, as I was mentioning, to change your physical environment in a way that helps you feel refreshed on the inside. So you might be rearranging furniture. You might be looking for some new art to put on your walls. You might be wanting to change the color schemes or the feng shui of what you're surrounded by. If you are in a stale office environment, bringing some plants into work. Little like fairy lights like this or something like that. Really kind of bringing some magic into any stale or sterile environments are going to help you retain that creative fire that sometimes seems to disappear when you're in a professional setting. Like you are just such a sparkly kind of energy. And so the more that you can preserve that, the more that you can feel safe and respected in that sacred fire that you have, that's really going to help you get through the next little bit. So there is a slight chance of irritability, but that would come from feeling like your fire is being squished. So that's why I'm saying anything you can do this week to support your fire, to fan your own flames, to create fun time and playful connections, that's really going to be your happy place. So if you find yourself being really, really grumpy, that just means that you need to switch things up, change your environment, or schedule some playtime. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Good luck out there. Capricorn sun and rising. The spring equinox is bringing the sun through your 4th house. It's going to be shining a light on your emotional stability, but also potentially your literal home. You're going to be seeking comfort. You're going to be really drawn to what is familiar and safe and low effort. Way less inspired to be social or anything like that. Last month, you would have been like, let's do stuff, calling up your friends and whatever else, maybe even active on social media. This month, you're going to be like, I want to hang out at home. Nobody call me. And everybody needs those times to just recharge your batteries, right? You might feel really inspired to meditate over the next month because contemplation is going to bring you a lot of awakenings and a lot of awareness. Your attention is going to be drawn to patterns within your own life, within the people that you interact with, and with your own psychology. You might be thinking about patterns within the family home. You might be thinking about whether or not you feel safe to talk about your emotions with the people that are close to you, and whether or not you feel like when you're going through something, maybe you feel like there's nobody you can talk to. So themes of emotional safety, themes of comfort, that's really coming up for you this week. And with Mars spending the next month or so moving through your third house, at the same time, and it's a good little balance, because as your attention is drawn to maybe some emotional stuff for yourself, you're also going to have the energy to problem solve, to maybe talk about your feelings with people that you don't usually feel comfortable talking about. Or maybe you'll have a really important conversation with a partner or somebody that you live with, a roommate, a child, anything like that. There is a possibility for arguments and provocation if you come to the table in an accusatory manner. But if you come to the table approaching with curiosity, for example, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so mad right now because you did this," totally valid, but is definitely going to provoke an argument. Or you could come to the table and be like, "Oh, I'm noticing that I'm feeling really frustrated on a regular basis, and I'm wondering if it's because this and this keeps happening. What do you think about that?" Intentionally kind of coming in nice and easy so you don't scare anybody off, but still inspired to be like, hey, this needs to be talked about. So sometimes the energy that we come to the table with, that makes or breaks the conversation. And that's the realization that you're going to have this week, is how you can use your intellect. How can you use your creativity? How can you be clever in a way that is honorable and respectful, but is also going to facilitate the end result that you really, really, really wanted to achieve? So yeah, great for problem solving, great for negotiation, and great for kind of establishing a foundation of feeling good, feeling peaceful, feeling like things are resolved for the most part, because what happens next month is much more like go time. So this month is really, really good for you to recharge your batteries, clean house, get yourself in a place of feeling emotionally safe and emotionally secure, so that that can be the foundation for growth and change that's going to come with the eclipses. So good luck out there. Aquarius, sun and rising. The sun is moving through your third house right now, really highlighting conversation, really highlighting the connections that you have, and whether or not there's honor and integrity in those connections and in those conversations. Excuse me. You may have a habitual habit. You may have a habitual response to stress or challenging dynamics that, instead of actually talking about it with the person that you have an issue, you might go around the back door and be like talking to your friends, talking to your sister, talking to your mother, whatever it is, but not actually talking to the person you have an issue with. If you have any patterns of avoidance within speaking your truth, within having conversations, it could come up, maybe you gossip too much. The whole energy this week is about honor and integrity within spoken word and within the thoughts that you think. Because if the honor and integrity isn't there, you're not going to be seeing life clearly. Sometimes when we gossip, sometimes when we talk about the problems that we're having, not with the person that we're having those problems with, but like everybody else, it actually ends up boosting our ego. Because I could talk to somebody and be like, man, you know, Susie over there, she's just blah, blah, blah. And whoever I'm talking to would be like, yeah, you poor thing. It's an ego boost. If I actually wanted resolution, I would go to the person who I have an issue with and I would find resolution. So sometimes we tell ourselves, I want resolution, but we're not actually doing anything to achieve it. It's those realizations that might hit you this week. Are you being honest with your word? Are you being integral with your word? Are you actually resolving issues with the person that needs to be resolved with? Or are you avoiding because it feeds your ego and helps you delay a really uncomfortable or challenging situation? Talking and listening is going to be really important. And what I wrote down was new ears. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we get in these habitual ways of describing ourselves, describing a dynamic, describing somebody else. But if we approach with curiosity, we are able to hold space for maybe we've changed, maybe that person has changed, or maybe something about the dynamic has potential to change. Curiosity is going to be the key to unlocking literally everything that's happening for you this week. rather than making assumptions. New ears and new eyes. With Mars moving through your second house, you might find that you are spending money to avoid yucky feelings, like retail therapy. That's what I meant. Or you might find that someone who's supposed to pay you is avoiding responsibility. There's a sense of money and resources being wishy-washy right now and kind of up in the air. With Mars moving through your second house, there's a highlight on values and integrity, not just in spoken word and what you think, but also how you spend your money, what you do with your time, and what sort of identity have you crafted for yourself. And sometimes, you know, we want to say, oh, I'm this type of person, but if my actions don't back it up, I'm not that type of a person. This may be especially challenging this week because personal value and worthiness is what is going to be highlighted. And if you have assigned your value and your worth with money that you make, that money could be taken away and your sense of identity doesn't really have any legs or any roots. It's important that you find personal value and integrity in something that is beyond physical definition. Because if we anchor ourselves to a belief or a job or a haircut, all those things could change. All those things could be taken away. And who you are goes so much deeper than that. You might be struggling this week with how somebody else sees you or how somebody else perceives you. And again, trying to tell somebody who's bound and determined to see you in one particular way, if you're trying to tell them, no, I'm not like that, you might be wasting your time. The end result of this week's energy is going to help you stand strong in who you are with humble awareness and clarity, but it may be deeply uncomfortable getting there. So I hope that makes sense. But what's really important is for you to be able to love yourself unconditionally, no matter how anybody else sees you, no matter what anybody else says. And honestly, it took until my 40s to be able to get there. Me and my friends are calling it our F it 40s because I spent my entire life worried about what other people thought, and it wasn't until I hit 40 that I'm like, F it, I really don't care. I mean, kind of, but not really. And sometimes these things come with age. Those are the sorts of awarenesses that you're coming through. It's a waste of time to try and tell people who you are. Just be who you are, and the world will figure it out. But please do love yourself unconditionally, no matter what. I hope you have an amazing week. Pisces, sun and rising. The spring equinox and the sun moving through Aries is in your second house right now. You may be focused on wanting financial freedom. You might be contemplating whether or not you're working to live or living to work, and whether or not there's room for you in that equation. Financial freedom also is often intertwined with unconscious beliefs. If you grew up in a situation where there was money everywhere, then you would have a very different perception of money and value and worth than someone who grew up in a situation where maybe there wasn't enough money to get groceries. Maybe you grew up in a situation where there was housing insecurity or food insecurity, and scarcity and lack formed a panic inside of you that you can't seem to shake. So whatever your personal experience has been in this life, when it comes to finances, when it comes to having what you need, having those resources, having those, tangible safety nets around you, that might be really brought to the forefront for you this week. And again, it has a lot to do with the unconscious beliefs and programming that we have integrated and taken on in our lives based on whatever it was that we were surrounded by. So with Mars moving through your first house for the next month or so, there's going to be a sense of redefining for yourself who you are. And redefining who you are through kind of how you move through this world. And realizing it's not so much about ego, it's just about being present in the here and now. And if you have any negative associations with scarcity and lack, this is going to be an amazing month for you to release those. If you have any kind of struggle right now around being independent, being free, it could be free as an individual or it could be financially free. The energy for you guys over the next month is detangling from anything that anchors you down. So those could be self-limiting beliefs that sabotage our progress, or it could be an identity or being seen as a kind of person, or wanting to be seen as a kind of person, and maybe that identity limits your movement. So freeing yourself from any psychological burdens or psychological patterns that interfere with your ability to walk your highest path, that is the focus for you this week. It might feel vague, it might feel kind of unconscious, but you're going to have these brief moments of being like, oh, I do this and this and this because that's what we did when I was growing up. Maybe you hoard things, maybe you have a really hard time releasing friends or releasing items or whatever it is. It's going to be about attachments. It's going to be about desire, and it's going to be about whether or not you feel anchored or lost at sea. And trusting yourself and trusting in your ability to survive, trusting in your ability to manifest, and trusting in your ability to create a peaceful, sacred space in your life is going to be part of what ends up being your lifeboat. Trusting yourself completely. And then a metaphor I like to use is, we've all kind of got these lifeboats, right? And if we realize that there's people in our lives that are like drilling a hole in our lifeboat and we're having to bail out the water just to stay afloat, sometimes those people need to be kicked off the boat. So self-preservation is going to be really important for you guys this week. Do watch out for a tendency to fight or rebel or pick fights. Ultimately, it's about letting go, releasing your expectations for other people, especially if they aren't appropriate, and really kind of just focusing on what you can do to be the healthiest version of you. And if you just look inwards, make sure that you're walking your highest path, everything else outside of you will smooth out. So I hope you have an amazing week. Thanks so much for being here, you guys, and I will see you next time.